There's two fundamental concepts in ADAPT that our method helps and supports, and ultimately, hopefully, it gets implemented. And that is role clarity. So you get clear about these roles, and then maximizing trust, because without trust, you can't hand over the roles, and you can't. And then each team that is in your system needs to, for it to be effective, it must have high trust and psychological safety. So yes, they're the two big things that we're bringing.
Big pillars.
The big pillars.
Okay, all right. So I want to go to vision now. And I've heard you say this many times. You've got to form the team to do the work of the team. Form the team to do the work of the team. And when I say team in this context, I mean the owner-director team. And you've also said that one of the accountabilities of the owner-director team is to form the internal vision of the business. So I want to explore with you, firstly, what is an internal vision, and then why is it so important?
Yeah, so let's begin by saying why there's an internal vision and an external vision. Most people listening to this podcast would understand an external vision. An external vision is something that the customer can see, the employees, all the stakeholders can see, and it generally talks to the domain space in which they operate, right? So that's the external vision. The internal vision is something that may only ever be seen by the owners. It might be with other stakeholders, but fundamentally it's for the owners. And what it does is it's a detailed document that will give you the fundamental guidance for all the capital decisions and every subsequent decision in the business. So let me give you an example at Adapt by Design. Adapt by Design it has a very, very, very long. It needs a very long life and a very long runway to achieve its vision. I think it's going to take another 10 to 15 years. It just is what it is, and so consequently, the sort of capital. So let's just talk about our vision for a moment. Ultimately, we want to help SME owners build great businesses and resilient businesses. That's our purpose. But our higher vision about that is we want to have the back of those SME owners, and we want to build a resilient SME economy, because we think by doing that, there'll be all sorts of benefits to the countries in which we operate, because we can potentially raise the water level of trust. Now, I know there's a lot to unpack in all of that. But anyway, the point about that is you don't deliver that in 1 year or 2 years or 5 years, and you don't talk about, I'm going to give you 20x return on da-da-da-da-da. So it's a vision that is actually motivated by a lot of things that are beyond money. So yes, we want this to be financially successful, because we want everybody in the system to have their day in the sun. That is a given. But we also know that this is the biggest patient capital type of business you could have, because what we want to do is see the vision come to fruition. Now, if we made a decision to take exit capital, so somebody says, I want to see this business, you exit in 5 years, 10 years, whatever, that would be immoral on our part, because we don't want exit capital. We want to exist, not exit. So thank you, Doug Bester. Anyway, so that's the key here. So how you make decisions about capital decisions, whether debt or equity, or how you design your ownership model, all these different things are going to be informed by your internal vision. And so there's a bit of a buzz going around in the public capitalism world. And as everybody knows, I believe that SME capitalism, public listed capitalism, well, not everybody knows, but I'm telling you now, that for my opinion, that there is a differential. And in the public listed world at the moment, they're talking a lot about ESG. So environmental and social governance. If you actually think about an internal vision document, it is actually it's environmental social governance plus 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 plus, because it includes, and very much includes, what do you want for your customer. So it's an integrated document of all of the stakeholders of your business and what you want for them. So what's cool about that is that you can have a stakeholder awareness, and you can design your business in service of integrating across your stakeholders and not bias one stakeholder over another. So it's quite a different mindset to shareholder value. And one final part to that, which I'll pause in a moment, but just on the on owner alignment, this is the way that we can get, if you've got 3 owners, you can get their internal vision designed or defined for each one of them, and then you can build an integrated internal vision, which then becomes the primary document for the governance of the business.
So I want to get specific now. How do you extract an internal vision? What is your process that you might take an ownership team through so that the output is an internal vision?
Yeah. Well, so I did a lot of research on the Spanish Inquisition, and they had this thing called a rack, and you just put each owner on the rack. That is my attempt at a bit of humour here, but it's very, very difficult, and for some people it's extraordinarily easy, and for other people it's very difficult to write it. And I understand this because I've been in I don't think I really wrote my best internal vision. I didn't do my best internal vision work until I was 61. So so it's only taken me 37 years. So I think it's a difficult thing to get to that point where you go, that's what it is. So this is the exercise I set. I help people understand who are the major stakeholder groups of their business, right? And there's the employees, the leaders, the owners of tomorrow, the customers, the suppliers, the partners, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then they've got themselves and their family, And so what we do is say, sit in the future at some stage and write a letter in the past tense about what happened for each one of those stakeholder groups. So if they, and I've been pleasantly surprised by the richness of the internal visions that have come out from people that you would not expect them to write something so rich. And I think that the fact that it is a little bit of creative writing.
Define rich.
Rich.
Sorry, Doctor.
I don't know, from the heart.
Okay. Yep.
From the heart. An authentic dissertation on what they want for themselves and their family and their employees and their customers, because that integrating from, if you think about, this is another thing why I've got so much empathy for SME owners, because they've got their family and they've got their kids and they want to be at the school play and they want to get to the footy and they want to be the footy coach, right? But at the same time, they've got this thing over here where they've got all these stakeholders in this business that they've built, and they've got this incredible feeling of responsibility to all of those stakeholders, and they've got to integrate across this. They've got to try and work out, well, how do I navigate a good life, and of course, let's not lose sight of the fact that they've got to make financial security. So if the business is hurting and their financial security is being harmed and they're working hard and they're not seeing their family, that's a pretty horrible state of affairs, because they can't walk away. They're not employees. They can't just resign. They've got all these. I worked out that at one stage, I said, with families and kids of family, and and then customers, and then I started to realize, you end up building a network over in Acquire. I think it was 10,000 people hanging off your tree, and I think, to wrap all that up, I think that people, once they understand why it's important to get this out, they can then start to see, I can now find the intersection of my aspirations for life and my business. Now, there's nothing more powerful than that, because that is the cornerstone of all strategy in an SME.
I can actually attest to this personally. I had Gabe kicking and screaming.
He used the rack as well.
So not on a corporate level or an SMA level or within a business, but just doing your own personal internal vision. It's absolutely terrifying, because what it forces you to do is to actually assess your priorities, because you can't be everywhere at all times. So I think when I did mine, it was the realization that there's a lot of clarity around this really quickly, because the process of putting it down into words is clarifying, but it also holds you accountable. So just that process took weeks. Real,
Soul searching.
Yeah. It was an emotional, physical, mental, spiritual, effort. Unlike most things I've done, because it's yours, right? So imagine in an SME environment where that business is your baby, and like you said, you put your money where your mouth is, really, and you've got people around you that you also need to come through for. I can't actually imagine. I can't imagine that. That's if you do it properly, and the result being such a rich, tapestry of outcomes. I've got mad respect for that, having just been through it myself internally.
And you said that the output of your own personal vision gives you something that holds you accountable. You also feel like it gives you something to aim at, something that helps you steer your ship.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, definitely. I think it becomes your compass.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because when back in the early iterations of ADAPT, I used to call it the guiding philosophy. And that's, I think, quite a good name, really. I mean,
yeah, it makes sense.
Internal vision is a bit ugly when I think about it. So maybe
might be a new
okay, we just changed it.
Guiding philosophy.
It's been a tremendous discovery for me doing this work to realize this one question that nobody asks. Nobody goes and asks this question for people, especially busy business owners. And the question is, what do you want? The amount of times I've sat with a founder and asked that question, and then they gave me an answer, and then I asked the question again, and give me another more detailed answer, and then I asked the question again. And we realize they've never gifted themselves the time to go, hold on a minute, I've got 30, 20, 10 more years left that I want to work. What do I want on the other side of that? And that's been a real key to unlock people to go on this journey to craft their internal vision.